Hey guys, welcome back to my channel Ship and Read. Today I'll be doing another book haul. So I did one a few months ago, and since then I have purchased a bunch of books, received a bunch of books from various sources, and so I thought it would be a prime time for me to do another book haul. I have currently 7 stacks in front of me, so it is quite a lot of books. So before I get started, just letting you guys know that this will not be an in-depth book haul, so I'm definitely not going to spend too much time on each book. I'm just going to briefly talk about it because some of these books I got them unsolicited, I purchased them on a whim. Some of them are cover buys, etc. Some of them I don't really know too much. Some of them I just know the author and I'm like, I want to purchase it, etc. So there's a whole host of reasons as to why I got some of the books that I did. So I'm trying not to spend too much time on the summary of each book, also because I have, like I said, 7 stacks in front of me, and so I want to say I have about 60 plus books to discuss today. So let's just jump right into this video. The first stack over here, I have the first book, and that is Too Good to Be Real by Melanie Johnson. This is an arc that I received from the publisher. This one comes out sometime in July 2021, and this book, all I know, is a rom-com, and it's basically about this girl who wants to prove that life is not a romantic comedy, and she's trying to prove like all the different reasons, and then she finds out one reason that it is a romantic comedy. So it sounds super cute. I'm definitely intrigued, so thank you so much for this publisher for sending me a copy of this book. Then this next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This one is out on, this one actually already came out in May 4th. So this is a adult fantasy book, and it says over here that a century has passed since the gods fought and drove themselves to extinction, yet their bones remain, promising great power to those brave enough to seek them out. So this is the first book of a new fantasy series, like an epic fantasy series, and I'm so excited for it. Plus there's also dragons, I'm assuming, based on the cover, and you guys know how much I love my dragon books, so very thrilled about this one. Then this next book that I got is actually a one from a giveaway, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides, or Michaelides, I hope I pronounced his last name correctly. All I know is that this is the author from The Silent Patient, and I actually really enjoy The Silent Patient. I just read it recently, and it was different than what I expected, but it was still like, it kept me at the edge of my seat. I was still always thinking about what was happening, so I was very intrigued about this book. So all I know about this one is another psychological suspense novel, and it weaves Greek mythology, murder, and obsession. If you guys know me, I love my Greek mythology. It's actually one of my favorite mythologies. Like, I've always been obsessed with all the Greek gods and goddesses. So as soon as I saw this cover, as soon as I saw that it had something to do with Greek mythology, I was like, I am so here for this. So yeah, I'm very stoked about this one. Then the next one that I got is actually from a publisher, and that is Sister of the Bollywood Bride by Mandini Bajpayee. I'm really hoping I pronounced the last name correctly. This one is an arc, and it actually came out already in May 2021. This one says that it's supposed to be for fans of Morgan Mattin's Save the Date, but in like a Bollywood-esque type of setting, and that sounds super intriguing for me. So I love the cover, it sounds super cute, so yeah, definitely excited for this one. Then the next book that I got is actually one that I requested specifically from the publisher, and I should get to reading this as soon as possible because I am a little bit behind, to be honest. But this book is Skybreaker by Addie Thorley. This is actually the sequel to Night Spinner, which I loved. It was like one of my top books of last year. It was like 5 stars, loved it, so I should probably get to reading this as soon as possible. This one actually already came out on May 4th, but this is the sequel as well as the finale to the Night Springer duology, so I want to read this just so I can be like, I'm fond of the series, like, you know, I'm excited to find out like what happens next, because the last book, just there's a lot happening last book, and I really want to find out what happens. So I'm honestly kind of shocked as to how I haven't read this book yet, but yeah, I should probably get to reading this as soon as possible. Next one that I got was actually unsolicited by the publishers, and that is Spells Trouble by PC Cast and Kristen Cast. This one already came out on May 2021. They actually sent me this beautiful grimoire that I actually am using right now for my bullet journaling, just because I was like, it's a really nice grimoire, like a really nice journal that I was like, might as well use it. So I'm really happy that they sent me a copy of this as well as the grimoire in the package they sent me. And all I know is that this book is going to be about twin witches, and they are supposed to be direct descendants of the founder of their town of Goodville. So that's really all I know about this book. So the next few books I got were actually books I purchased. There was some sort of sale a while ago, and I was like, I just kind of splurged. And this is one that I so hesitant to pick this up, but I've just heard so much that I couldn't not pick it up recently, and that is A Little Lie by Hanya Yanagihara. This one is supposed to be like extremely sad, very depressing. I'm ready to feel all the emotions, but I've heard just like amazing things about the writing, about like the characters. So yeah, I mean, I am intrigued for sure. I'm also very daunted, but I don't know, guys. Like, I finally picked it up and I just heard too much about this book for me to not be intrigued. So I decided to take a dive and just pick up this book and just find out for myself. Then this next book that I purchased is The House in the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune. This is another book that I just heard so much about that I am just like, now I'm just curious. All I know is it's supposed to be like this guy who somehow goes somewhere and he meets someone, not exactly sure who, but like apparently it's something to do with like an orphanage, and it's supposed to be about these 6 dangerous magical children. So okay, so it's over here that he is the guy, his name is Linus, and he ends up going to this island, to this orphanage that apparently houses these like 6 dangerous magical children, and he meets someone who is Arthur, who is the master of the orphanage, and apparently it's like a love story. Like I said, this is another one that I've heard just amazing things about, like just rave reviews. So I am super like, I'm very intrigued to find out like if I'll love it as much as everyone else seems to in the book community. The next book that I purchased is one that I just cannot not purchase, and that is Rule of Wolves by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to King of Scars, and I haven't read that book yet, but it doesn't really matter to me because I really want to just like, honestly, like Leigh Bardugo is just like a must-read author for me. So since I found out that she has another book set in the Grishaverse, follows Nikolai, I'm here for it. Then this next book that I got is another one that I've heard a lot about, and that is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This is supposed to be like a sci-fi fantasy, I want to say, and it's the book 1 of a new trilogy, and it's supposed to be inspired by civilizations of the pre-Columbian Americas and woven into a tale of celestial prophecies, political intrigue, and forbidden magic. This is definitely one that I've heard a lot of great things about, so I've heard, you know, like I was intrigued by it, so I figured why not pick it up and just see for myself. So this is another book that I purchased. Then this next book that I got is actually from one of my, I forget if it was like Fairy Loot or Owl Crate, because I'm now subscribed to both, but that is The Prison Healer by Lynette Noni. This is one of their exclusive editions with these really cool sprayed edges. And then I'm assuming there's also like sprayed edge. Oh, so this is Fairy Loot, by the way. I have like the card over here. I have these stunning hardback, and then as well as this, I forget what this is called, but like the inside pages. Anyways, this edition is absolutely stunning and I'm very intrigued. I don't really know too much about this book since this came from a book box, but it's about this woman who has worked as a healer in a notorious death prison, and then one day an infamous rebel queen arrives and she receives a new message, which is don't let her die. So there's definitely like a bunch of intrigue going on here, maybe a rebellion of some sort, like prison escape, etc. So this book sounds stunning. Then this next book that I got is one that came from a publisher, I believe, and that is Falling by TJ Newman. This is a book that came out, or is coming out, on July 6th. So this seems to be a thriller. It says you just boarded a flight to New York. There are 143 other passengers on board. What you don't know is that 30 minutes before the flight, your pilot's family was kidnapped. For his family to live, everyone on your plane must die. The only way the family will survive is if the pilot follows his orders and crashes the plane. Enjoy your flight. So yeah, this sounds like it'd be like a really intense wild ride, and I'm here for it. Then this other book that I got is also from one of my special editions. I believe this is from Owl Crate actually, or maybe it's Fairy Loot, not really sure. But this one is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sienna Smart. It has this little plate here. It has this on here, and it has these beautiful artwork in the back here. So it's definitely one of the special editions. I don't remember which boxes it came from, Fairy Loot or Owl Crate, but this is another one that I'm super psyched for. All I know is about these two characters, these two women, one who has spent her life in a cell, but she is heir to an overthrown and magically gifted dynasty, and this other character who grew up dressed in gold with stolen magic at her fingertips. So I'm assuming these are like sworn enemies, and these two witches end up on a deadly alliance to take down the woman who threatened both of their worlds. So I'm intrigued. It sounds like a lot of alliances, political intrigue as well, definitely fantasy. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by this one. Then this next book that I got is actually from a publisher, and that is Victories Greater Than Death by Charlie Jane Anders. I'm not entirely sure what this one's about actually, but it seems to be like a sci-fi kind of novel. Okay, so over here it's a sci-fi adventure set against an intergalactic war. So I don't know, but I've heard this, I mean, I already know that this cover is stunning, so thank you so much for sending me a copy of this book. This next book is another one that I got from a publisher, and that is For the Wolf by Hannah Witten. It says over here, the first daughter is for the throne, the second daughter is for the wolf. So apparently it says over here, as the only second daughter born in centuries, she has only one purpose: to be sacrificed to the wolf in the Wilderwood in the hopes that he'll return the world's captured gods. This sounds intense already. I am intrigued. I want to say it reminds me of a little bit like Red Riding Hood retelling, or like inspired from it. So yeah, like I am so here for this book. Okay, then the next book that I got is also from the publisher, I think. I'm not entirely sure actually, and that is The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marion Cronin. I really have no idea what this book is about, to be honest. It's supposed to be a funny debut novel that is a brave testament to the power of living each day to the fullest, and it's supposed to be a reminder of our unlimited capacity for friendship and love. Yeah, I don't know what this book is about, but thank you so much for sending a copy of this book to me. But yeah, that's all I know about this book. The next book that I got is also from another publisher, and that is Black Girls Must Die Exhausted by Jane Allen. This one is out on August 3rd. I also really don't know too much about what this book is about, but it's supposed to be a first novel in a captivating 3-book series about modern womanhood in which a young Black woman must rely on courage, laughter, and love to overcome an unexpected setback that threatens the most precious thing she's ever wanted. So yeah, another book that I am not entirely sure, but was sent to me by the publisher. Then the next book that I got is also sent to me by another publisher, and that is Daughter of Sparta by Claire M. Andrews. And this is another one where it's inspired by Greek mythology. So as soon as I heard about that, I was like, I requested it. I was like, I really want a copy of this book. So yeah, I'm super excited for this one. Then the next book that I got from a publisher is The Chosen and the Beautiful by Nikki Vo. I'm really hoping I'm pronouncing the name correctly. This one is the one that I did request, mainly because I've heard like so much, like, it's really very like lyrical, kind of like literary fiction. I'm kind of going into that, and also because it's by an Asian author, and I want to support like Asian authors these days, or just like people of color, like, you know. And not only is this by an Asian author, but it's supposed to be set in like the jazz era, where it features a like Asian main character who's also queer, and how she is like, what her life is like in that time period as an Asian American and also queer, which I think is a lot of hardships that she's facing, a lot of prejudice, etc. And I believe there's also like magic involved, so I'm very intrigued by this one. Okay, then the next book that I got was also from a publisher, and that is Son of the Storm by Suyi Davies Okunboya. I really hope I'm pronouncing the name correctly. I'm so sorry, but this is another fantasy, and I'm very intrigued by this one. And it's about this man who one day like just collides with someone else who's able to wield magic that shouldn't exist, and that I guess sparks a whole adventure. So I'm excited for it. The cover looks really intense, so yeah, definitely can't wait to read this one. The next one that I got is also from a publisher, and that is Blade of Secrets by Trisha Levenseller. This one sounds amazing, plus the cover is stunning. I don't think I've actually read any of her books previously. I know that I have a lot of books that I'm supposed to read by this author. Like I have The Daughter of the Pirate King, I have Warrior of the Wild, and I'm pretty sure I also have The Shadows Between Us. So yeah, like all of her books I own copies of, but I have yet to read a single one. So I don't know, but this book sounds really good. It's like a YA fantasy. It's about a girl called Ziva who is a magically gifted blacksmith who forges a sword so powerful it can bring nations to their knees. Unable to find a way to destroy the blade, she must go on the run with her sister, a handsome mercenary and a scholar of ancient magic, to keep the weapon safe from warlord intent on world domination. So definitely like an adventure fantasy book, and I am here for it. Next book that I got is actually one that I purchased, and that's because I was just like, I feel like I haven't read the series yet, but if I love it, I just want a copy of it, and it was on sale that day, so I figured why not pick it up. And that is Dark Dawn by J. Kristoff. This is the last book in the trilogy, and it's kind of just been on my TBR bust by for some time now, just because I wanted like the series. But honestly, like at the same time, I'm a little bit worried because I'm like, if I don't like the series, then like why did I buy this book? You know what I mean? So yeah, that's all I can say for this book. The next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is Ember of Night by Molly E. Lee. This one came out on May 4th, and it's supposed to be a fantasy like romance novel, and that's kind of all I know about this book. But the cover seemed kind of like middle grade in a way, so I'm not sure if it's like middle grade or like YA, but either way though, it sounds interesting enough. The next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is Nice Girls by Catherine Dang. This is another arc that comes out in September 2021. I want to say this is a thriller novel, but let me see. It says it's a post-pounding, deviously dark debut that explores a hungry, angry, hidden side of girlhood and dares to ask which is more dangerous for a woman, showing the world who it wants to see or who she really is. So I think it is actually like a thriller novel, because it says over here also that it's supposed to be like lives of these two missing girls and how this one girl basically like finds these like secrets, painful secrets that threaten to destroy everything. So very intrigued by this one. Next book that I got is actually a book that I received as a gift, and that is Good Girl Bad Blood by Holly Jackson. This is the sequel to Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which I absolutely adored. Highly recommend listening to an audiobook, by the way. It's like the narrator does a good job, so I was so psyched to find a sequel to it, and I guess it's a kind of like direct sequel to it, and it just follows Pip and the guy, his name is Ravi, and just like a continuation of yet another crime that they're trying to solve, and I'm here for it. Next book that I got is also another gift, and that is Blessed Monsters by Emily A. Duncan. This is the last book in the Wicked Saints trilogy, and honestly, like, I am here for it. I only read Wicked Saints, but I loved it. I've been waiting for the last book to come out before I just dive back into the series, so I can just kind of like binge read the entire series. So yeah, now that I have this book, I can finally do that, but I am intrigued. Like, I cannot wait to find out what will happen next. I heard there's a lot of like plot twists and turns, a lot of like betrayal, romance, you know, magic, dark magic, all that stuff, and honestly, like, I am just really here for this book. Next book that I got is one that I got from the publisher, and that is The Heartbreak Bakery by A.R. Capetta. This comes out on October 2021. So it says over here is a teenage baker sends ripples of heartbreak through Austin's queer community when a batch of post-bean dumped brownies turns out magical and makes everyone who eats them break up. This sounds like a really cute romantic book, and I am honestly, like, sometimes I'm just in the mood for something like really fun and fluffy, and this definitely sounds like it. Next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that's Ferryman by Claire McFall. This one comes out on October 2021, and it's supposed to be a romantic retelling of the Sharon myth. So that's really all I know about this one. Basically, like, you know, how they're spirits of the dead and they have to go through cross the river, the ferryman, and that's kind of, I believe that's what this retelling is about. The next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is Idle Gossip by Alexandra Leigh Young. This one is out on September 2021, and it's supposed to be a delicious gossip squares off with a genuine heart in this inside book at a K-pop academy. This book basically follows a girl, her name is Alice Choi, who goes to Myeongdong, which is, so they live in California, so they live in South Korea, where she goes and sings karaoke, and basically like music is her outlet. And one day she ends up being scouted by a top 10 entertainment, which is one of the biggest K-pop companies, and from there she ends up, I'm assuming, like debuting, training, all that stuff, and kind of gets an inside look of K-pop industry. But yeah, this sounds like something I really like, and I love K-pop, so this would be like a closer look at the K-pop industry. Next book that I got also from a publisher, and that is The Jasmine Throne by Tasha Suri. This one is book 1 of the Burning Kingdom series. All I know is that the book has wild magic. It follows a princess called Princess Malini who dreams of vengeance because she is apparently trapped by her brother within the crumbling walls of an ancient temple. And also follows another character, her name is Priya, who was forced to disavow her birthright and her power because of her past. So yeah, I am like intrigued. Definitely like a very like strong female badass kind of duo going on over here in a fantasy setting. So yeah. Next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is The Black Tongue Thief by Christopher Bullman. I'm hoping I pronounced his name correctly. All I know is that this book is supposed to be a fantasy that is fans of Nicholas Eames' Kings of the Wild and Joe Abercrombie's The Blade itself. I have not read any of those books, but I do love a good fantasy book. So yeah, I am intrigued by this one for sure. All right, then the next few books I got are actually books that I purchased recently because of a huge major sale. I think it's like Prime Day and the Target has some sort of like major sale going on. So I decided to splurge a little bit and buy some books because what else am I supposed to do? So the first book that I got is The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst. This one is supposed to be a standalone epic fantasy. I've heard like, okay, so far I don't think I've read any of her books before. I think I've read like one in the past, and since then like her books always has like such interesting like synopsis, but for some reason I haven't read any of them yet. So all I know is that this one's going to be set in a brand new world of towering mountains and sparkling cities. A band of aging warriors has a second chance to defeat dark magic and avenge a haunting loss. So essentially this kind of reminds me of that one book where it was like these chosen ones save the world, and now it kind of goes into the aftermath of like what happens after they have saved the world. And this book basically follows that kind of similar premise. Was about 5 warriors or 5 heroes, and only 4 came back after a victory, but had to pay a very big price because only 4 of them, you know, survived. So this book kind of follows that, and yeah, I'm like, that book was actually really good, so I have really high hopes with this one as well, since they seem kind of similar, like follow the same veins of the plots. Next book that I got is actually from, okay, so I guess that was the one that I purchased. The other ones are over there. The next book that I got is actually from a publisher, and that is The Lost Girls by Sonia Hartle. Really hoping I pronounced that name correctly. This one is out on September 14th, and this is supposed to be like getting over your vampire ex is as easy as killing him and stealing his girlfriend. So definitely some, you know, drama going on here in a vampire setting. So I feel like vampire is definitely making a comeback right now, and I'm kind of here for it. Like honestly, like I'm kind of here for it. Next book that I got is actually one from the publisher as well, and that is The Queen Will Betray You by Sarah Henning. This is book 2 in the Kingdoms of Sand and Sky series. This is basically, I'm assuming, like happens right after the first book, and honestly, like the first book was kind of disappointing, so yeah, but I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I'll try to pick up this book and see if it will redeem itself. But yeah, like this is a sequel to that book. Next book that I got is one that I actually specifically requested from a publisher, and that is The Splendor by Brianna Shields. This one is out on September 28th. Oh, actually this is the one that had a discrepancy. I forget, it was like either beginning of September or end of September. I talked about this a little bit more in my most anticipated release video, so definitely go check that out for some of my most anticipated releases for July, August, and September. But this book is about a hotel who is able to give people like a huge fantasy, like, you know, satisfy one of the biggest fantasies. And for this girl, unfortunately, her sister comes back going to this hotel and completely changes who she is, because there are like a really special bond between the two of them have been broken, and now this girl goes back to this hotel kind of like as revenge in a way, to find like does this hotel have this magical power, what is behind it, who is behind it, all that answers. So yeah, definitely intrigued by this one. Okay, this is a book that I did purchase from Amazon recently, and that is Where the Forest Meets the Stars by Glendy Van Dura. This is a book that I just feel like I've seen around, and it was like really cheap one day. It was like $5, so I was like, I am intrigued enough to pick up, like spend $5 on this. But I really don't know what this book's about, to be honest. I just want to say this is something to do like sci-fi maybe, or maybe not really sure actually. It says where she comes from is a mystery, where she's here for is a miracle. So I don't know, I guess I'll find out for myself when I read this book. Next book that I got is actually from a publisher, and that's The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. I'm not entirely sure what this book is about, but it says it's about a family searching for the truth hidden in their past and the power they've inherited, and that's really all I know. So definitely some sort of magical powers here, it seems, because we talk about gifts and granting her daughters unexpected blessings. So I don't know, we'll see how this goes, guys. Next 3 books I got were from Book of the Month, and the first one is Hail Mary by Andy Weir. This is a book that I just kind of had to get. It was sci-fi. I really don't know too much about this book. Actually, I don't know anything about this book. All I know is that this is a sci-fi novel, and it's by an author who wrote The Martian, as well as this other book that I read, and I can't remember right now, but it's supposed to also be sci-fi, and that one was kind of like meh, to be honest. But this is supposed to be like a book that rivals The Martian. So since The Martian was I've only watched the movie, to be honest, but The Martian was such a great movie that I feel like if it's supposed to like rival that one, which is supposed to be like one of his best works, I'm intrigued enough to pick it up. Next book that I got from Book of the Month is Ariadne, I hope I pronounced the name correctly, by Jennifer Saint. And this one is a Greek mythology retelling, I want to say. It's about Ariadne, who is a princess of Crete. And yeah, this is definitely a like retelling of that mythology. The next book that I got is Half Sick of Shadows by Laura Sebastian. This is another book that I got from Book of the Month. All I know is that this is supposed to be like a feminist retelling of the Arthurian legend. And that's all. It says over here, the story of Camelot is hers. I love my Arthurian legends, so I'm very intrigued by this one. Next book that I got is one that I was like hesitant about purchasing in so long, but I finally decided to get it because I was like, you know what, I think it's time for me to pick up the last book and just finish off the series, and that is The Burning God by R.F. Kuang. And this is the last and final book of the Poppy War, and I'm not going to go into it because this is the third book in the series, but the Poppy War is just stunning. Like, it is everything. The sequel is equally as stunning, and this third book I've heard is like even better. Well, I've heard mixed reviews. I've heard it's even better and even like not so good, depending on some of the characters that you might have fallen in love with, etc. But either way though, there's a lot to go into in the series and just a lot to like finish off. So yeah, I definitely cannot wait to find out for myself how this series, how the story will end. Okay, the next few books, like I mentioned already, are books that I just purchased a lot of, and the first one over here is A Deal with the Elf King by Elise Kova. Honestly, like, I've recently heard about this author and I've seen some people talk about her books, and her books are just have the most like stunning artwork ever. So I've been like kind of intrigued by it. It's supposed to be part of a Married to Magic novel. I don't know if this is part of a series or not. I thought this was a standalone, but perhaps it's not a standalone. I'm not entirely sure. All I know is it has to be like elves. A lot of her books have like elves in it, and obviously that's really all I know about this book. It's kind of definitely a cover buy, definitely a book that I was just like, I feel like I'm missing out on because everyone has been talking about her books recently. So yeah, I got a book and just find out for myself if I like it or not. Next book that I purchased is The Infinity Courts by Akemi Don Bowman. All I know is that this book is something to do with like an AI, where this main girl, she like dies and she ends up in the afterworld, where this AI who is actually in this world is like everyone's virtual assistant, and she's actually like ruling over the afterworld, and how like there's some sort of rebellion because she has some nefarious plans for the real world, for just kind of like overthrow her humans slaves, I guess, or her human masters. So that's why she's having revenge in the afterworld, where she is basically enslaving all the humans who come into her kingdom or like her domain. So I'm super intrigued by that concept. So yeah, we'll see how this goes, guys. Next book that I purchased is The Lost Book of the White by Cassandra Clare and Wesley Chu. This is a book 2 of the Eldest Curses trilogy or series, and if you don't know, I really love the Shadowhunters world. I read the first book and I really enjoyed it. It was just like a fun book to read. It definitely doesn't have all that serious undertones that her books usually have these days, but it's just like fun. Like, I love the banter between Magnus and Alec. Like, they're just, I'm here for it. Like, I'm always here to hear those two just have their discussions and their interactions, and yeah, I just like really love the two of them a lot. Next book that I purchased is Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. This was a book that I kind of had to purchase. I loved her debut book, which is The Hate You Give, and since I have seen this book, I was like, I need to pick it up for myself. So that's all I know about this book. Next book that I got is actually from the publishers, and that is It Ends in Fire by Andrew Schwartz. Really hoping I'm pronouncing the last name correctly. And this one comes out on July 5th, so it's coming out really soon actually. It says over here that this girl has a mission: 1, infiltrate the academy; 2, win the great game; and 3, burn Wizard Society to the ground. So that sounds like a lot happening right now, and I am here for it. Next book that I got is also from a publisher, and that is Nothing by Black Teeth by Cassandra Call. Really hoping I pronounced that name correctly. This one comes out on October 2021. This is actually a really thin book. I did not realize how thin this book was until it arrived, but it's just like just over 100 pages. I actually don't really know too much about what this book is about. All I know is that it's a creepy haunted house tale steeped in Japanese folklore. I really love Japanese folklore. They are so eerie, and there's just so much about their like legends that I'm like, gives me the creeps. So I am here for it. Plus this cover is just like, look at this fucking cover. It looks so fucking scary. So yeah, anyways. Okay, then this next book that I got is one that I have purchased recently, and that is The Faithless Hawk by Margaret Owen. This is the sequel to The Merciful Crow, which I actually liked. I didn't like love it, but I was intrigued enough to find out like what happens next. So it's been on my like wish list since then, or like my TBR, and it was on sale, so I figured why not pick it up finally. And I'm definitely curious to find out like what will happen next. Next book that I purchased is Ace of Spades by Farida Abike Iyimide. Really hoping I'm pronouncing that name correctly. This one is supposed to be a young adult thriller. It follows these two teenagers who are I guess like they're selected to be part of the elite school's senior prefix, and it's supposed to like look great on the college applications, etc. And then one day they get pulled into this game by someone called Aces, where that person is actually revealing all of their secrets. And as the story progresses, it becomes deadlier and deadlier. So I am intrigued by this. Like, it definitely has some sort of One of Us is Lying kind of vibes to it, but with like diverse characters in here. So yeah, I'm definitely intrigued. Next book that I purchased is Realmbreaker by Victoria Aveyard. I mean, I really don't know what this book's about, to be honest. This is definitely a book cover by, and the fact that her books, I actually don't think I've read any of her books, to be honest, now that I think about it, but I don't know, her book just sounds really cool. So it says over here, Esquire, the survivor of a failed quest, an immortal, timeless and unfathomable, an assassin skilled and heartless, an old sorceress holding secrets behind her teeth, and a pirate's daughter, the world's last hope. The heroes are gone, but the fight to save the world has only just begun. So yeah, this book is a chunker, but it sounds amazing, so I'm here for it. Next book that I also purchased is The Bonecryer's Dawn by Catherine Purdy. This is the sequel to Bonecryer's Moon, which I actually really enjoyed. I don't know, I went in with it with kind of like mediocre expectations for some reason, and I came out of it like really loving everything that I read. So since then I was just like, I really want to pick up the sequel. So this is the book that I finally picked up, and I definitely can't wait to find out like what happens next. And like the whole, like the ending for the first book was just left me a huge cliffhanger. So yeah, I definitely want to find out what happens next. Next book that I got is actually another one that I purchased, and it's by Elise Kova. It is A Trial of Sorcerer. This one obviously has to do with sorceries and magic, and it's supposed to be about a girl. Her name is Ira, who goes to a trial so she can compete for a spot in the tournament. That's really all I know about this book, guys. But this cover is stunning, so definitely again a cover buy. Next book that I also purchased is Tokyo Ever After by Emma Kojin. This is a book that has been on my radar for a very long time. It's basically kind of like Princess Diaries, but a Japanese girl instead, where she finds out that she is part of the Japanese royal family, and she goes off to Japan to learn about the cultures, find out to be a princess. A lot of princess etiquette in Japanese culture there for sure, and this sounds really freaking good, so I'm really excited for this one. Next book that I purchased is Sweet and Bitter Magic by Adrienne Tooley. This book has been on my radar as well. In terms of what this book is about, I don't really know. All I know is about witches, and it follows these two girls. One is Tamsin and one is Ren, and that's all I know. But I really like the cover, guys. Like, this is definitely a cover buy. Next book that I also purchased is These Feathered Flames by Alexandra Overy. I don't remember what this book's about, to be honest, but I want to say there was like phoenixes involved for some reason. I'm not sure, but it says the queen is dead and someone must pay. And there's only one reason that power would transfer to Asya now. Only one reason for the firebird to rear up inside her. So yeah, some sort of like phoenix for sure. Her mother was dead and a new queen had to be crowned. So I want to say this has like Russian folklore-ish to it. It definitely sounds like it. So yeah, anyways. Next book that I also purchased, I've been purchasing a lot of books actually, is Yoke by Mary H.K. Choi. I've heard, okay, so Mary H.K. Choi is one of those like authors that I'm like unsure about, because Emergency Contact I enjoyed but I didn't love. I haven't read Permanent Record yet. It's actually right over here. It's on my July TBR. So I was intrigued by this book, and I've heard like a lot of good things about it. So I don't know. Mary H.K. Choi seems to be like an author that a lot of people love. So I picked up this book hoping that, you know, maybe 3's a charm, even though I haven't read the second book yet. But still, like, I have hopes that this will be a really good read. Next book that I purchased is Wings of Ebony by J.L. This is one that I just picked up on a whim, to be honest, mainly because I was watching some booktubers reading vlog and she was gushing about this. I believe it was Naya, and she just loved this book so much that I was like, wait, the way how she talks about this book, I'm intrigued, even though I don't remember what this book's about. But here I am, I purchased it, so we'll see how this goes, guys. Okay, the next book that I got is from a book trade, and that is Kingdom of a Blazing Phoenix by Julie C. Dow. This is the sequel to Forest of a Thousand Lanterns. I haven't picked up the first book yet, but I have high hopes for it. So I picked up the sequel in a book trade in hopes that it will be amazing, and then I will just love it. But that's all I know about this book, guys. I really don't know too much about this one. Next book that I got is actually from a publisher, and that is Summer Suns by Lee Mandello. This one is out on September 2021. It's supposed to be a queer Southern Gothic that crosses Appalachian Street, racing with academic intrigue, all haunted by a hungry ghost. I feel like Dark Academia has been like all the rage recently, and while I'm on board with some of them, I'm not on board with all of them. So I feel like this one definitely has some of that vibe, so I was intrigued enough to request this book actually. Next book that I got is actually from a book trade, and she so kindly sent me Uzumaki by Junji Ito. This is a book that has been on my radar ever since I heard like Chloe raving about it. So yeah, like I was really intrigued. It's supposed to be like a horror manga, and I've never read horror mangas before, but this book is a huge chunker, mainly because this, I believe this has like 3 volumes to it, so it's like a bind up version. And yeah, like I can't wait. This also, there's like some crazy drawings in here for sure, but I don't know guys, we'll see how this book goes. Like this is the first time I ever delved into this type of book before, so a little daunted, but we'll see. And the last and final book that I got is actually a book that I got from a publisher, and that is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. This one is out on November 2021. This is actually one that I requested because I enjoyed her books in the past. I haven't read any of her books, but I do have a lot of her books and they sound super interesting to me, and since then I was like, this sounds really good. So this book is about every generation, these 7 families come together and compete, and whoever is the winner receives like they have like sole access to this powerful resource called magic. And this year, thanks to a salacious tell-all book, the 7 champions are thrust into worldwide spotlight. And so basically they have a choice to either accept their fate or rewrite their story. So I don't know, but this book sounds absolutely fantastic. Definitely giving me some Hunger Games vibes for sure. But yeah, this cover is also like really intense. Anyway, those are all the books that I have received, purchased, etc., traded in the past few months. It's a lot of books, guys. I feel like I breezed through some of them. I gave you guys some more in-depth summaries for some of them. I did what I could for them because some of them are just like, there's a lot and I'm getting tired. But yeah, that's what to say for this particular video. Let me know down below which books are you most excited for that I received recently. Which one should I, you know, bump up to the top of my list to see and to try to read first as soon as possible. As always, if you like this video, please do give me a thumbs up. It really does help out my channel. And if you'd like to see more content of me, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. As always, don't forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!